we will be providing a link for the recording after the fact. So let's get into it. Again, I'm going to say, if you haven't already and you're joining us, please share your name and where you're from over in the chat side, and then we're going to jump in. So I'm going to introduce our speaker today, Jonathan Reynolds. Jonathan is CEO of Titus Talent Strategies. He is a true visionary, entrepreneur, and game changer. He has almost 20 years of experience in the recruiting industry and started Titus Talent after experiencing some firsthand that the traditional recruiting model was broken and had to be changed in order to produce better results and create lasting partnerships. Jonathan currently leads a unique, fast-growing team, really fast, and I think you'll share a little bit about that today, which is great, and works with companies on how to improve their talent strategy by focusing on their most important asset, which is their people. I know you're going to walk away with some great things today, and I will get back after that. That was the fastest, best presentation we have ever seen.
Thank you for joining, everyone. That's about wraps it up.
So yeah, as I said, I know you're going to walk away with some great stuff. Jonathan will pull that thing back up here again, and then we will jump in. We'll be back at the end with some opportunity for Q&A. So hopefully our tech stuff works here.
Oh, it's coming. It's good. It's coming.
We'll let Jonathan take it away.
Don't use the wheelie thing on my mouse. It goes really fast. So,
very good.
Hey, well,
glad to have
so
you, Jonathan.
Much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks to the team. It is good to be here. I look forward to talking on these topics of people. We are in this, no matter where you're at in the world, I think this is probably the case, just to recognize that people have choices. We're in a day and age where there's just so many choices, especially if you're in the United States. Now, I am not an American by birth. I'm an American by choice, but I'm British, grew up in the UK, but quite an international family, traveled around quite a lot. But I love America. It is the land of choice. There are just choices for everything. And choices and preferences and have it your way kind of culture, which is a nightmare for managing people, if I'm honest, because they're saturated with choice. And we've gone from this. When I moved to the States 25 years ago, I was like mind blown by customer service. The customer's always right. Well, we've got this new customer now called employees, especially here in the US. And it's almost like, thank you for choosing me. Thank you for choosing to come to work today. We so appreciate it. Even just around general establishments in the States, you go in these places, it could be just a restaurant that says, please be kind to the staff. They chose to come in today. And I'm like, what is going on? I thought I was the customer, but now I as a customer, I have to thank the employees for showing up. But there is so much choice. And one of the big choices is where people work. Statistically, the boomer generation, which are 57 plus now, the average tenure was 7 years. 7 years on the job. Gen X is 5 years, millennials 2 years, Gen Z 1 year on the job. So we're getting less and less. You think, what's the next generation? How are they going to be the gig economy? Are they going to be we were raised in such temporal thinking, we just get to do parts of jobs, project work, maybe. But I think one of these things is recognizing I say fast growing, Matt just said fast growing company. I'm going to give you a little bit of stats. So in the last 12 months, we've hired over 103 salaried team members who've joined our organization. Of those 103, 4 have turned over, no longer with us. Some that we helped find the door, and some found the door because it wasn't for them. But 97% of the rest hit at least 100% of what we hired them to do. And we call it performance profile. And I'm going to explain that in a bit. You think, hey, that's a good number. I mean, I was happy as a business owner. I'm thinking we're doing a good job of hiring if that's what our stats are like. Promoted and developed 22 managers, people managers, or leaders in the organization in the last 12 months. And we're in the 96th percentile with our anonymous employee engagement. When I look at the stats of our company, I'm like, hey, we're doing something good. And now what we do as a company is actually, I'm going to explain a little bit about what we do here, but The things I'm gonna cover here today: how to retain and optimize employees, how to get the most out of your people. Okay, so anyone who's leading people has problems because you're dealing with people. They say more money, more problems. I go, no, it's more people, more problems. The more people on your teams, the more challenges you're going to have, because every single one of us, including us here on this webinar today, woke up with some dynamic in your life that you probably didn't have 30 to 60 days ago. Life evolves, life changes. Whether you've got, I have teenagers in my life, so every day is a new day, but there are challenges in my life that affect the way I show up at work. So understanding people, the people dynamic is challenging. How do you best support your people leaders? And if you're scaling and you need multiple hires, how do I go about doing that? And then the other part is performance management. We have a tool around that, which this is not a sales pitch today by any means, but I will share with what we do, so you just kind of a dynamic of the context. Who is this guy and what does he know? So recruitment and hiring is a massive part of our history over the last decade. My entire career has been in recruitment and hiring and helping companies around that dynamic. Employee engagement retention. You might do a crazy great job on recruiting and hiring, but if you don't know how to engage and retain people, what's the point? This is a revolving door. And so we want to help you in that area. And then leadership development. How do you develop people for what's next? And then talent mapping and succession planning, which is, of course, what's next. But for those who are non-leading people, depending on your leadership philosophy, they need to know what's next as well, otherwise you lose them. And then performance management. The whole reason we hire people is they get a job done. So those are the 5 areas that our team is specialists in, and we do it through a few different structures. One is what I'm going to train you today on: hire for performance. Like, why hire people and how do you hire people for top performance? And then we can get into some psychometric assessments as well, understand the way people think and the way they're wired to behave. And then there's our platform called Etho, which is it's a meeting management, project management, and people performance and development tool. We'll have about 10,000 users on by the end of this year. So there's some little context of what we do, but hopefully I'm not talking too fast for you. I just talk this fast. That's how I go. But you can listen to the recording on slow. Usually I listen to podcasts on twice the speed. Some people listen to me on half speed so they can catch what I'm saying. But the 3 phases of talent strategy, according to us, obviously these are debatable, but critical seat hiring, talent optimization, performance management. So when we come into talent strategy, we look at these 3 things, like how do you hire, how do you optimize, and how do you get the most in performance management out of your people? So let's cover phase 1. All right, critical seat hiring. Now, some might say critical, every hire is critical. Yeah, I could get into that, a little bit semantics, but anytime you're hiring somebody and you're going to pay a salary to them, hopefully somebody's justified that hire. We asked thousands of HR leaders in the US, and we just said, hey, tell us what's the most important measurement in your hiring, and it came down to these 3: speed, cost, and quality. So we said, okay, well, how do you ensure quality of hiring? And they're like, well, it's really important. It was the most important out of these 3, by the way, far higher rated than speed or cost. But nobody was measuring quality of hire. Actually, that's not true. They were measuring, the only measurement was retention. What percentage of those who they hire have they retained? And I'm thinking retention. So if you retain people, you would say that was a great hire? I beg to differ. I don't think that's a good measurement for quality of hiring. We did such a good job of hiring this person. We retained them. Well, you can retain people for all kinds of reasons. I don't know if it's whether they got their job done or not. So there's a lot of, it's stressful. Hiring is stressful. And even for me, and I would say, hey, I'm an expert at this. I definitely have blind spots and bias. And so we really need to put a process in place to eliminate, the hiring regrets. 80% of hiring of turnover is due to bad hiring decisions. That's a Harvard Business Review stat. 80% of turnover due to bad hiring. So we had to develop this way to really increase quality of hiring. Not just here's a process for hiring, but it had to equate to quality of hire. And so we thought, I said to one of my leadership teams, I don't know, many years back, I said, what if we could guarantee quality of hire? What if we could guarantee that those we hire are quality? And they said, well, we have to define quality. And I said, well, what if we guarantee that the job got done? Because that's why we hire people, to get a job done. And they said, well, there's too many dynamics. And I'm like, I agree, there are so many dynamics. So what if we put a process in place to help increase the quality of hiring so that we could say, we'll guarantee it? What if we could say, we'll guarantee by the anniversary date, whoever we recommend you hire, we guarantee they'll get the job done by the anniversary date. So that's what we set out to do many years ago, created a whole process around it. And I'm going to share that with you, to share it with you today. So our, what we call hire for performance, the number 4 is in there because of our 4 phases: the seat, the search, the selection, solution. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through each of these phases right now. So buckle up. And I can't see if Q&A is coming through. Yes, I can. I can see it. All right. If you have questions and they pop up as you do them, put it in Q&A here, and Matt or I will notice them, and I'll try and answer them either at the end or live in the middle. And if you're one of those people who's got questions in the moment, you'd like it answered in the moment, I don't mind answering in the moment. So I have this wonderful gift called ADHD, so I can go all over the place on a dime like that. So, all right, here we go. Critical seat hiring. So the seat. There is a Jim Collins line from his book, Good to Great, which he says, right people, right seats. Now, I am not attacking Jim Collins. I think he's clearly done a good job of what he does, but I'm turning it on its head a little bit and saying, I'll change the order around. And I'm going to say right seats, right people. So I wrote a book on this, not to compete against Jim Collins, but to actually talk about the primary reason we hire people is to fill a seat, and the seat needs to be defined. So when we start talking about a seat, I have an open seat in my office or open seat in my company, I need to define what success would look like if somebody sat in that seat. Not a job description, not a list of duties. If I was to look at most of your job descriptions that you have for your company, it probably describes a person. And when I say it describes a person, like without their names, obviously, but must have 3 years of experience doing such and such, must have 7 years managing people, a team of people, must have experience with this software. And it describes a person and their experiences and their education rather than what the actual job is and what needs to get done. Does that make sense? So why is this position open? What is the big wicked problem that you need to get fixed? And how will you know if the problem is fixed? And very simply, there's a few different ways of looking at this. What needs to get done by the person's anniversary date? Like, how would you know if this was successful? So I use the example, I met with I live just near Chicago in the States, and I met with a company here in Chicago a number of years back, big company, about 100 million in revenue. They had 6 plants and facilities around the United States. I'd never met them before. I sat down with them in their office. I was invited to meet with the CEO and the CFO, and they said, could you help us hire a COO? And I said, great. So I sat down, great to meet you guys. And they slid this job description across the conference room table to me. And it was 4 pages long. And I started thumbing through it, and I saw things like, must have 15 years of experience in this, a bunch of HR jargon. I say jargon, I'm not anti-HR by any means, but stuff on this job description was nothing to do with the job. It was just stuff that they felt was about compliance. I thought, So I ripped it up and I threw it in the trash, and I said, so tell me about the job. What is the job? And they looked at me like eyes popping out of their heads thinking, you're an idiot. We wrote that. It's right in front of you and you just threw it in the trash. And I said, no. By the end, if we were to hire a COO today, fast forward a year, if I came back in here and sat down again and said, how did they do? And you said, Jonathan, they're amazing. I'm like, great. How does the company look different today because they are here? What did they do, achieve, or accomplish? And they looked at me and thought, well, we want to grow our bottom line by 5%. And I was like, wow, do you think you could do that? And they said, yeah, we do believe so. And I said, well, how does this person impact that? What would they do to change this? And they said, well, we've got supply chain issues. So we need the CEO to come in and fix supply chain. I'm like, okay, what would they need to, if they fix supply chain, what would that look like? And they said, well, in the first 90 days, they would need to do such and such and such and such. They need to visit all of our 6 plants and figure what the issues are. And I said, okay. So if they did that in the first 90 days, would they present to you what they're going to do to fix it? They said, yeah. And I said, okay. So the next 9 months will be fixing what they believe is the right way to fix it. And if they do a good job, it will have an impact on the 5% bottom line growth. They said, yes. And I said, what else? We came up with 3 things that they needed to do. And I stopped. I said, all right. And I wrote them all down. I said, here are the 3 things. If the person did these 3 things and they did it to the standard of good, like they got the job done 100%, would you be happy? And they said, absolutely. And I said, was any of that on your job description that you just handed me, the 4-page job description? And they said, no. I said, okay, do you see the problem? Somebody could come in and you could pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars. They could do everything on those 4 pages and you wouldn't be satisfied because they didn't get the real job done. They did activities. And they said, we get it. That's the difference between a performance profile and a job description. Job descriptions usually describe a person. Performance profile describes what the job actually is and how do we define excellence in this. If I ask my son to tidy his bedroom and I don't describe the level of excellence I'm expecting, and I go in to expect it and I find all of the stuff, all of the dirty clothes under his bed, I go, great job. And then I look under the bed and I go, not great job. And he said, well, it's tidy. You said tidy my room, right? Sorry, I didn't define what I meant by that. I just said, go in here and do things. I didn't say, put everything in its right place and put nothing under the bed. That would be a good performance profile for a teenager. All right, so time check. All right, I'm doing okay here. All right, so the difference between skills-based and performance-based, you might say something like, hey, we need someone with an MBA or a bachelor's degree in business, finance, and accounting. You think, okay, so you're looking to hire somebody in a finance role or a controller or something like that. Makes sense. Rather than saying that, you didn't say why you need that. Well, in the first 90 days, we need to assess the current finance team structure and evaluate existing contractual talent for conversion over to become employees, basically. And we need to build out a competent finance team to reduce costs associated with our team by 6%. That's why we need to hire a controller here or a finance person. But, oh, cool. Makes it a heck of a lot easier to attract somebody and interview somebody than just saying, do you have an MBA? Yes, I do. Why? Why the heck do you need an MBA? Well, we think we need an MBA to do this effectively. And you can keep breaking that down and saying why you need this experience. Why do I need 10 years of experience? Well, I need somebody 10 years of experience so they know how to do this, or at least have done it before. It's more to the point. 10 years in accounting doesn't mean you actually know how to do the job that you need to get done. So breaking things down. Okay, so that is the performance profile. And if you need help on this, I can send templates on it and work through workshop style help on this one. But it's a different way of thinking about the seat. So if you're going to fill a seat, what does success look like if someone was to sit there? Not what does activity look like. It's defining, and you can do this with any job. I don't care what it is. If I'm going through Chicago O'Hare Airport and I go into the restrooms there, on the way out, there's a little button, a red button and a green button. One says, am I satisfied or am I not satisfied? Which I think is gross, touching that in a bathroom, in a public restroom. Use your elbow or something. But the reason those are in there is they're trying to quantify the level of excellence of the job of the contracting company who has the janitorial bid. That's why it's there. Because somebody said, all right, we'll clean all the restrooms at the airport. They said, okay, we're going to charge you this amount of money. And they said, okay, what's the service level agreement? How will we define whether it's good enough? And they said, I know, we'll let the customers or the passengers decide by pressing this button. If they get a certain percentage score above this, we'll know we did a good enough job. Is that agreed upon? So they agreed on performance and they put a system in place to measure that performance. That's exactly what this is. It's a performance profile. And it's a heck of a lot easier to manage people when you know what you're managing them to get done and achieved or accomplished rather than activity. Otherwise, we would all say, did you do the job? Yes, I did the job. Well, you didn't do it good enough. Well, you never told me what good enough was. So we're bringing it down to performance. All right. How many of you realize that when you hire somebody to do a job, a person shows up, not a resume? Okay. If you hire a resume, you'll fire a person. Okay. Don't hire resumes. They don't show up to work. Don't hire resumes or CVs, depending where you're in the world. Okay. So people show up to work. Really, really important. So let's figure out what person should sit in that seat that we just created. We covered the performance. Now we need to go, all right, somebody's going to sit in here. So what's a person? I'm not getting all political here. What is a person? Okay, so we've broken it down saying a person consists of three things. I understand there are a lot more dynamics to a person than these three things, but for the sake of hiring, we're going to say the head, the heart, the briefcase. Very simple visual. Every one of us have natural tendencies, behavioral traits, or cognitive reasoning that we've developed over the years of growing up. And it's the way we think and behave when the pressure's on or the pressure's off. You need an assessment to do this. We've partnered with one of the 650 assessment tools in the United States. We found the one that we believe is the best. Okay. And I'll share that in a bit. But we're so much so that we said, hey, we are so passionate about your tool. You should let us sell it and you should pay us to sell it. That's what we did. So we were a licensed partner to sell, train, and implement this tool called the Predictive Index. So that's full transparency, okay? We use that tool because we believe it's the best diagnostic tool of this. Then the heart is all about values and motivations. Why do people do what they do? Why do they choose to? Remember the whole thing of choice? Everyone has choices where they work. They choose to work at certain organizations for a reason. Sometimes for somebody, it's just money. I'll go with the highest paid job. Well, that's a value system. They value the most, they want to go where the most money is. They don't care about other things. People say, oh, it's all about culture. And they go, I don't really care about culture as long as you pay me the most amount of money. Okay, so the money is a motivator for some people and it's not for others. So core values, what are the motivational factors? We would say that's a third of the equation. So a third in the head, third in the heart, and third with their skill set and experience. It's what people do with what they have that makes the difference. Not just that they have it. You can hire somebody who's, if you ever hired a salesperson for your organization and they've told you all of this pedigree and background where they've come from, and they come into your organization and you realize, oops, we hired a jerk. We hired somebody who's taking more out of our culture by way of whittling people down than they are actually bringing and adding to our culture. And so you're looking for culture adds by what they bring to the table, and that's who the person is, not just the experience or pedigree that they bring. All right. I hope I'm doing okay speed-wise here. 1 second here. I'm gonna skip just for some. And I'll come back to it. All right. Critical leadership hiring. Trust is super, super important. When you've taken somebody through the interview process, I'm going to come into this a little bit more and break down the interview process. Really, really important that people know that you're being really honest and trustworthy about what goes on the inside of your company. You don't want to bait and switch somebody and tell them everything's green and rosy and perfect. Okay, if it's not. Here in the States, many of you know Glassdoor. It's a software or a website where people can anonymously write reviews on the companies that they've worked for or experienced, even the interview process, and that you cannot remove any of those deflammatory comments. It's really annoying as a business owner. I personally respond to every single Glassdoor review because of this issue of trust. I think it's important that people know that, number one, as a business owner, I care. Okay, so, and I do care. I said it's annoying. It is annoying at times, but I have to show that I care. And I do care about the culture of my company. I don't want to hear what people experience. So I care deeply about the employees that we have. And I care about the experiences people have. Hopefully they write nice things about us, but even if they don't, I want to make sure we're changing. So trust is really important. You're transparent with people about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Really, really important. So, all right. Leadership hiring. So when it comes into leadership hiring, you probably need to spend a little bit more time on leadership hiring. Anyone who's going to be managing other people, because the collateral damage, if you do it poorly, could be greater. And many would agree with me on this statement. Leadership is just influence. Okay, so any position that you're hiring that has major influence over people or projects you probably need to put as leadership hiring and make sure you've got a good structure. And you can see from many different angles on the hiring. So that's the point of having a nice structure, so you're seeing from lots of angles over time. So structured interview, making sure you have a structured interview process. What are we interviewing? So like I've already described, we've got the seat or the performance profile. That's really what I'm interviewing to find out, can this person do this job? Will they actually do the job? Do they have a history of actually getting jobs done? And do they want to do this job in our environment with our people, with this team? Okay. So we interview a structured interview around that. And if you want interview guides and how to do that, I'm happily, in a couple of slides time, I'll give you an opportunity to request those. Conducting a panel interview. Okay, either a panel who are all separate or together in the same room or the same virtual panel, or multiple people interviewing for the same things and coming together. I asked this question and here's the response I got. Well, I asked the same question in this way and here's the response I got. So having some type of a scorecard or a review system where you can actually review together rather than doing the, I say, ridiculous gladiator hiring. And now it's been 20 years since the Gladiator movie with Russell Crowe, but as many of you remember that movie, I love the movie. But there's this point where Caesar does this kind of thumbs up, thumbs down thing right in the arenas, and they go, kill or not kill. I see too many hiring managers do the same thing. When I've asked hiring leaders, hey, how did the interview go? They'll do a kind of a yay or a not so good. And I've seen recruiters around going, oh, the thumbs down. No, it's a pass. And then the next question is why? And they go, not a fit. And I'm like, not a fit? What does that mean? And it's just a hide behind in so many ways. Hide behind, I didn't like them. Hide behind, I can't imagine going for beer on Fridays. Hide behind, they're not going to fit the team. Hide behind, lots of hide behinds. Okay, this not fit thing. And we've got to bring definition to that and say why. What are you talking about? So, making sense? Fit, no fit. We're going to get away from that and use an actual scorecard on head, heart, briefcase. And what are we doing here? The next thing here is you're not hiring people for day one only. You're hiring them to get a job done, but you're hiring them to grow in your organization. Remember I said the stats, boomers 7 years, Gen X 5 years, millennials 2 years, Gen Z 1. Okay, you want to dial people into where your company is going and growing, not just come and have a job. So we're not hiring people because we're hiring. We're hiring people because we're going somewhere. That's why we're hiring. So you see these signs here in the States, you drive around and say, we're hiring. And I'm like, who isn't hiring? That's not the best way to attract somebody. We're going and growing somewhere. Do you want to grow with us? Do you want to grow with us? Well, this is what the role would look like in 3 years' time. And I know that's a big gulp for some of you. Like, well, I don't know where it's going to be in 3 years' time. Well, start mapping it out because that's how you're going to attract A players. What does the role look like year 1, 2, and 3? And I would say it's personal, not just business. People make choices because it affects their whole life, not just their work life. So understand how the role affects them personally and really capitalize on that. Okay. I'm pausing. So if you want right now, just grab your phone, hit the QR code. You're pretty savvy on this. Hold your phone and the camera up to the QR code. And you want to fill out a form just saying, hey, I'd like to have a chat about some of these things here. You can certainly chat in the Q&A on the webinar. But if you think, I wouldn't mind having just 30 minutes here, we have a whole team of people who can walk you through these concepts and help you with an issue that you have, okay? Walk you through it. Talking talent, hiring, engagement, retention, and development. That's our shtick. All right. I'm going to move on to phase 2. Remember, so the seat is phase 1. Then we kick into the search and scaling. So critical to hiring and scaling for growth. How do you actually search for people and how do you bring people in? All right, big part here is this. If you want to hire A players, you have to think like an A player. If you want to hire C players, and I'm making a gap there, mediocre people who do mediocre work, who are grade below 70% on their actual performance, maybe they're less than 70% on their value alignment, how their personal values align with the company values. Maybe they're less than 70% on the way they behave and treat other people. If you're a C player, if you want to attract C players, keep doing what you're doing. If you want to attract A players, think the way A players think. A players want to be a part of a winning team. Meaning, when they look to their left or their right, they see people who want to win, not people who are just happy to be there. So you got an NFL football team here in the United States. People are like, oh man, one day I want to be in the NFL. And then they make it to the NFL, the worst team in the NFL. You fill in the blanks. Okay. The worst team in the NFL. Do you think they're like, oh, at least I made it. I've made it for my life goal. If I can just stay here and never get kicked out of the NFL, I'll be happy to the day I die. I doubt it. I doubt it. That does not sound like a winner to me. That sounds like a C player. Okay. So A players want to be on winning teams, and they think, what would it take to get to the next level? What would it take to look to the left and the right and know that the people who've got my back, my left and right, they are in it to win it. They are here to crush it. And they are looking to see how can we become better and better and better. And so one day we can win the Super Bowl. One day. What do I need to do next year to get towards it? What do I need next year to get further on? Do you think an A playing mindset, if they got a call from a better team, wouldn't be listening to that? Because that's what's happening to our people. Somebody's wooing away the A players to go and join a better team. So one of the things that we do is talking about where the company is going and growing to attract A players. Okay, because they want to be a part of winning teams. So we use video in this a lot to tell stories, because people want to know the story of where the company is going, not just the history. They want to know where your company is going if you want to attract an A player. So we do it in video. We do this whole kind of, what's this? Let's talk. When we reach out to people, we never say we're hiring or our clients are hiring. We say, hey, check this out. Check this out. Let's talk. And we tell a story that attracts the person or the type of person we want to hire. Not we're hiring. We're hiring says we're desperate, and it attracts desperate people. Oh, I need a job. So if I was to call one of you today and I said, hey, would you be open to exploring a career move if it was truly superior to what you're doing now? I'm willing to bet 80% of you would say, well, yeah, if it was better, great. So we're just going to have an exploratory call to decide whether what's better, what's the next thing for you? And we're going to see if what I have happens to align with that. And if it does, now we're just dancing. Now we can just explore together and see if the what's next is an alignment. Make sense? Like, it's not, I'm available and you're available. Like, I'm available. That's just like, oh, you know, I'm running away from something versus running towards something. And here's how the psyche is for understanding this. A players make career moves very differently than B's and C's. Number one, stretch. It's got to be a bigger job than they've done before. So taking your old job description, and we've already thrown those out, we're going to go with performance profiles. But if you took your old-fashioned job description and you found a perfect resume to match it, 98% match, all of the 7 years of this, 3 years of this, pedigree, went to this university, had this bachelor's education, blah, 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 even an MBA. What a perfect match. Why would that person who's done this job for the last 3 years or 5 years want to quit their job and come and join you? They wouldn't. They wouldn't. A players don't want to do that. A players want another challenge. They want their career trajectory to go up and the right. So it needs to be bigger, not too big, but bigger. In the same way that we would often promote somebody within our company if we believed that they had proven themselves in the past and we believe this could be the next step in their career. And usually, by definition, they've never done that job before. But we go, hey, I think you could do this job. Would you like a shot? And when we don't have anyone on our internal team, we go to the outside and we go very different. We go, I need someone with 100% match. Doesn't make sense. Find somebody, another company who's got the next step in their career, who's going to step into that thing, and that's how you attract an A player. The next is growth trajectory. Do they believe that they'll still be stretched in 12, 18 months' time? And if not, they're probably thinking too temporal. They're not your person who's the A player to help you grow in your Super Bowl team, okay? And then another one is impact, that they can see the impact that they can make on your organization. Okay, and arguably the organization's impact on them. And then last is employee satisfaction. I'm not talking about compensation here. I'm like, I like doing this type of work with these type of people. Okay. It is overall more satisfying than my current place of employment. These four things, if you can nail this and you hand them a job offer and they go, this is great, thank you very much. When they go to resign from their current job, most companies cannot compete with this. And I always make sure that the prospect employee in the interview process, they can articulate all four of these, because I want them to be really clear. I'm going to write that down, right? And I really want to get it into their head, because when they go and resign, someone's going to go, oh no, what can we do to keep you to stay? Can I throw more money at you? I want this person to go, it's not about the money. That stuff's there, it's fine, but it's not about the money. Even if you beat the salary that I offered them, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to stay. I want them to say that I'm not going to stay. I'm going for growth, stretch, impact, much better work, and much better team. You cannot compete. If you do this well, people won't stay. They won't stay with their current employer. They won't take a counter offer. They'll come and join you. So, all right. This must be very, very clear, because there aren't many questions coming through. It's great. All right. So, head, heart, briefcase. Okay. This core value piece. I'm just going to cover it a little bit in here so you can use this in your interview process. Because if you've got the performance profile, you know exactly what you're interviewing for. So the best interview question is you're trying to find out if they can do this job, want to do this job, and will do this job in your environment. So using some type of a scorecard, and if you want to download the scorecard, hit that QR code from before, and I'll flash it up again in a minute. But it's equipping your managers to do a better job of interviewing, and is using some type of a scorecard so you know, do I believe this person is good? And then you track that over the next 90, 180 days, 1 year, to see, is it true? Did you do a good job on hiring? Would you still rate those people the same? And that's really important, that you want to measure your quality of hire. And so how we do it is every time we have a hiring class or a group that comes in together, let's say there's 5 people in that hiring team in that job role. By the anniversary day, I want to go, what percentage of those 5 are still with us? Okay, that's a retention piece. That's good. I want to know that number. But I also want to know what percentage of that group hit at least 100% of their performance objectives, what we hired them to do. That's how I came up with that number, 97% at the very beginning. So scorecard, really, really important. But the best interview question is, tell me your most significant career accomplishment. When you look back on your life, what's the most significant thing you've done? And they'll tell a season or a project or a job that they had. And then we're going to spend our time on that for the next hour. And I'm listening for all of my performance objectives. Are they in there? The things that I need to get done, the ingredients it's going to take to get that thing done, is it in their story? Because the story that they say is the most significant is the story where they came most alive. All of their head, heart, briefcase was at work. Their skills and experience, their values, their motivations, and their behaviors, everything aligned together because they loved that. It was the most significant. Made them come alive. So I want to know that story. Do I hear all of my ingredients to be able to, that I need to cover my job, to know if they can do the job, will do the job, and want to do it in my environment? And then I'm scoring. And it's okay if some of them are lower score than others. You then have to decide, okay, will I put some scaffolding around that area? Will I supplement this person because they're probably not going to come through strong here? It's going to cause frustration. Am I willing to take the risk and strengthen them here with some other resources? All right. Next. So at the end of your interview process, you want to actually go, okay, how am I doing here? Every single week, am I doing okay? Have I got enough candidates in here? Do I have enough? Have I delivered enough value to myself or to the hiring team? Like, what's next? And so I really want to know, how am I doing in my pipeline? So number 3, okay, part of the selection process here. Again, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wish so-and-so was here today. I wish so-and-so was listening to this. Yes, you can send them the recording. But if you're in HR or any kind of HR role, you've got HR certification thing, I'd like some points for this, because you get HR credits and points for these things. I think we've got up to 11 points just for this training. So you hit this and we'll make sure we get those points to you. But We can also introduce somebody else to this whole training as well. We have higher performance training as well. So you can hit the QR code if you want more, anyone to walk through this with you. So we've got HR, CI, and SHRM credits as well. So, all right. So this whole, remember the title here, creating a deeply connected, high-performing organization. How do we do this? So do your managers know that how impactful they are in their relationships with your people? If you want to keep people in your organization, so you've done a great job of hiring, do these people know how impactful they are? Do managers know how impactful they are? Do they executives know how to invest in the development of people? And the biggest thing here is that whether it be people, projects, progress, everything that you do, okay, build around the things that matter. We hired you to get this job done, and we're doing this together. And here's why we're doing it. Simon Sinek's great talent to talk on start with why, like really why, but why, because people want to know, is there a meaning here to this? And this is a generational thing, by the way. The youngest generation care more about purpose than the oldest generation. And so you think, oh, why is it so important? It's a generational thing. Boomers cared more about job security because their parents grew up in the Great Depression here in the United States. They said, just need to have a really good, solid job. And then they raised a generation who of the kids were latchkey kids and came into the house, and parents weren't there because they were so busy working for the secure job. So they said, this next generation, the Gen X, said, well, I'm going to be there for my kids. I'm going to really be a helicopter parent. I'm going to show up at every single game, and I'm going to be really, really present because I want to be significant. My parents cared about job security. I care about significance. And this next generation coming along, get off, give me freedom. Give me freedom, just back off a little bit. Give me some space to breathe. So that's why millennials are accused of being all about freedom. Because their parents were these smothering, very, very involved. And then the next generation says, it's not about freedom. It's not about just like, potlucks and all this kind of stuff and beanbags and video games and nobody micromanaging me. That doesn't feel purposeful. I want purpose. Why does it matter? So we've got this meaning and purpose rising up right now, taking over half the workforce. So tying everything to why does it matter? Why does it matter what we're doing here? Why does this meeting matter? We're meeting about something that's purposeful. So people want to know that they're making progress in what they do. All right. Okay, pausing for questions or comments. Nothing in there just yet, so I'll keep going. Cool. Understand this whole kind of creating a deeply connected and high-performing organization. So there are two tensions at work where people talk about culture, and creating connections and people giving what people want. And some people want this, some people want potluck, some people want a family culture. I'm not a fan of the family culture because everyone's family is different. And so if you say family culture, it's all up for interpretation. But actually defining your values as an organization of what you're about and why you do it is way more effective than saying family culture. Okay, because I don't know what that means anyway. And so, but really defining your culture by values is really, really important. And then you can have the other part is this tension. Okay, here's what we value, and here's what our cultural values are, and here's what performance looks like. So for our organization, budget every single year is set a minimum of 20% of what we did last year. So everybody knows, every team knows, I need to be growing. I'm a part of a ever growing, ever stretching, ever straining organization. We are committed to uncomfortable growth. These are part of our value system. So everyone knows that being a part of this company called Titus, it's a growing organization. And we grow about 62% a year on average over the last few years. And so we set budgets. We were crushing our budget, which is really cool. And that means more opportunities to promote and develop people. So the type of people we attract are growing, developing people. So high performance organization, if you want a high performing organization, here's the deal. People want clarity, purpose, and investment. Clarity. I want to know what's expected of me. It's horrible to show up and you don't know what's expected. Okay? That's why moving careers or moving jobs is very stressful, because the anxiety of knowing who are all the players and what do they expect. Do people like me? Are they happy with what I'm doing? Am I doing a good enough job? If you define quantifiably what's expected, then it brings so much peace. Okay. And then purpose. Why are we doing this thing? And the next is, how are you developing me and investing in me? If you can articulate those things, clarity, purpose, and investment, people they'll be dialed into where you're going and growing, and they'll hit the job as well. So the same way we hire people, head, heart, briefcase, you have to develop all of these factors. Okay. Stimulating the way they behave naturally. If they want challenge, if they want micromanagement, if they want more hold accountability, if they want this, if they want more relational stimulation, they want a connecting team, and they need public affirmation. Understand this piece, because that's how you manage them. The heart, why do they do what they do? If you find out somebody does what they do because, like, maybe they say, listen, honestly, I do what I do in this arena because I have somebody in my family who struggles with blah, 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 and it's a health issue. You think, well, now I understand your heart and motivation and why you do it. I can help stimulate, and we can help provide more resources for you in and outside of work because of your motivations. So you're managing people in a deal, a performance deal. Like, I want you to get a job done, and I want to motivate you and engage you with the thing that motivates you. And then briefcase, everybody wants to grow in their skills. I shouldn't say that. A players want to grow in their skills. They want to know what's next and how am I developing my skills and my briefcase. If they're always filling up their briefcase with more and more experiences, professionally, socially, relationally, knowledge-based skills, like, how are we doing that as well? All righty. Double checking on time. All righty. How do you keep people engaged? Capture, connect, coach. Okay, capture, connect, and coach. Okay. Eliminate guesswork by recording, storing what's happening in your organization. Okay. So capturing stories of great meaning. Okay. Why are we doing this and how have we done it? Capture those stories. We do it through video. If you want to see any of our stories, how we're doing meaningful things in the world, keeps people engaged. Connect, bridging this mission and projects and people. So we use a software platform called Etho to do that. Everyone knows they're connected together. It's our platform, by the way. ethoconnects.com brings everyone together, mission, projects, and people. And then coaching, really unlocking people's potential by informed coaching. Informed coaching means I know what they're doing, how they're doing, where they're going, and how they're growing. And they know as well. We're working together on coaching and developing them. So really, really important. And then number 5, same page meetings, quarterly conversations, having some type of fixed structure where people know, when are we reviewing? How am I doing? Okay, the old annual review, dead, boring, dry, way too far apart. Okay, it's a different generation now. People want in the moment feedback. We say we have official quarterly conversations, but we give in the moment feedback on a week by week basis. It keeps people connected, and it keeps people tied to what you hired them to do. Interestingly enough, if you pay somebody a salary and you pay them every 2 weeks, they expect to get paid every 2 weeks. People don't stick around in your organization if you don't pay them, okay? But you pay them for getting a job done. In the same way they expect to get paid, they should expect to get feedback around what you're paying them to do. It's fair, okay? It's a fairness thing. All right, I am open up for questions now. We've got about 5 or 10 minutes left. While I answer any questions, I'll leave this QR code up just so if you need anything, if you want to hear more about any of these processes, if you want to hear about our platforms to help facilitate this, we can share any of those things with you, but you can fill out this QR code and it'll take you a second and a half because most phones auto-populate. All right, Matt, I'll leave over to you and you can facilitate any Q&A.
That was fantastic, Jonathan. Thank you very much. We do have one questions in there right now, and certainly we'll look for more. But it says, once you hire the best candidate, how do you recommend we keep them engaged and on track with that performance profile? So I think the question is, going back to some of the things you defined in the tracking and that kind of thing.
Right. So, and it probably came right before my last statement is, being really clear around performance. And what did you hire them to do over the first calendar year? Break that down by quarter. So in the first 90 days, you want them to get this done. So that's really their onboarding. Okay. Here's what we need you to get you done in the first 90 days. On day 90, we're going to sit down and we're going to review that. And we're going to say, great job. And here are the parts you need to grow in. over the next 90 days, this is what we're going to work on. Here are the major objectives or performance goals we're going to look at. So really, really clear. It's that clarity piece. Okay. And then holding them accountable in some type of a one-on-one on a weekly or monthly basis, however regularly you want to do that. How are we doing? Well, they get a report back on how they're doing in those areas. And then at least I would say on a quarterly basis as well, saying, how am I doing to lead you to what's next? At some point in a calendar year, I would say, hey, you chose to come here. Thanks for choosing to be here. I thank our employees all the time. Thanks for choosing us. But I say, if you were going to leave us, what would the reason be? I just want to know. Because if I can know that information, I can actually provide that for you right here and right now. So how do I keep somebody engaged and on track with their performance? Well, they want to know what success looks like. And part of that engagement is knowing what's next. I don't want somebody to woo them away with a what's next. If I, shame on us if we've not done a good job of providing people with what's next. So, and it's hard to do, but really having lots of conversation around it will help you tremendously.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that came up in one of your slides, and we've had some conversations separate, and I've seen a video of yours as well, but on the idea of career pathing and laying that out, how does that tie into what we talked about today and something more specific around that future? What does it look like?
Yeah, so on that, and I see another question coming. I want to make sure I have time for it, but career pathing is super important for an A player. Okay, C players. Now I say A players who get at least 100% of their job done and they want to help grow the organization to what's next. I put them in the A player category. Okay. So for those A players, they want to know what's next and you don't want to lose them for what's next for somebody else's what's next. You want to keep them for what's next. Well, that's why it's really important. You have a vision for your department or the company or organization. Like if you don't, as a leader, have a vision for where the organization is going, and you might be sitting in a manager or a leader seat right now and you're thinking, well, my boss never told me. Well, then go and ask your boss, what's next? I need to know what's next so I can communicate what's next. Because there is a domino effect of the what's next. So somebody somewhere in the organization needs to know where you're going and growing. And you need to communicate that down to your team members so they know that growth equals opportunity. Growth is an opportunity for them. So yeah, really, really important. Okay.
Yep. And we do have one coming from the audience. Yes. So it says, can you talk in more detail about the components of the performance profile? So you know that versus the job description. So define a little bit more in detail, so, if you don't mind.
For us, we start with why does this position exist? Short paragraph. Here's our organization, and we have this position. I was starting to write one this morning. This position exists over the next 36 months. We want to achieve this, and why? That's what I just wrote it right at the top. And I'm like, okay. This is what in the first 12 months, this is what we need to get accomplished. And if we do this, I would say high five, this is successful. Okay. So then there's the next kind of, and I usually put 3 to 5 things. I don't do any more than that. 3 to 5 bullets. I go, number 1, this number needs to be hit. They already explained why. I explained why. This needs to be hit in the first year. How that breaks down is in the first 90 days, this will need to be get done. Okay, cool. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, like somewhere between 3 and 5. And then I say, why would somebody want to quit their job and come in what we call the employee value proposition, the EVP, employee value proposition? Why would I want to consider doing this? Well, maybe you're frustrated with this. Maybe you're frustrated with this. Maybe you're looking for the next step in your career and you want to tackle something like this. I want to talk to you then if you're ready for the what's next. So the components of the performance profile really are, if these 3 to 5 things got done, and they have to be quantifiable, either done or not done, you can see it right there. You can break that down over 1/12 of a year, so you can see if it's done on a monthly basis or 52 if you want to break it down weekly. But that's the job. It attracts somebody to want to come and join your organization because of it. So really, really important that it's clear in that. Hopefully I answered the right question or enough of the question there.
Yep, no, that's great. And I think you mentioned some examples and things like that. So it's probably somebody can request a sample of maybe your performance profile or something like that. Is that something they can request from you? Okay.
They absolutely can. You hit those QR codes and we'll send you some templates. So
great. So we've heard a lot about the whole quiet quitting
Yeah.
concept, right? So how does this address? I mean, I think overall the big picture is there, but is there anything specific that you've been
I'll give an
thinking?
example. It's not perfect, right? It's not perfect in our organization. I heard somebody resigned in the last couple of weeks, a few weeks back. Somebody resigned, and I'm like, I heard about it. They're a little bit distant from me, and I'm like, what? Why would they resign? Aren't they? They're a top performer for us, surely. And they had not been here very long. So I went straight in and just said, did they know what's next? And I found out that the manager, basically what I've just talked about here, managers don't know what's next for them. They don't know what to say what's next for their people. And I was like, dang it. We were able to rescue and salvage the situation because this person was going for a lateral move. They didn't know what was next with us. And once they understood what the next 24 to 36 months could look like for them, they were like, boom. And they left a lot of money on the table for career growth and development with us. So this quiet quitting thing is people need to know what's next. They just need to know. And they know what's next is when someone woos them away, not this issue. All right. I see one more question here. Jump straight in. Does the performance profile cover behavioral attributes of the candidate and employee? Well, no. Yes and no. Depends how much you want to put in it. If you're really clear on what the performance is, then take what are the behaviors needed to get that job done? What are the values needed to fit well within the organization? And what are the skills that they need to do to get that job done? You can certainly weed out candidates by putting that on there. We have it as, if you look at two separate pieces of paper, if you want, I've got the performance profile on one preview of my eye, and I've got the scorecard for the head, heart, briefcase, the behaviors, values, and skills. And that's what I'm interviewing on. You can certainly communicate that to candidates, but I find that I don't want anyone trying to morph their way into those and fake it. And then I discover later that they're not it. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. We have one thing is, if you don't mind, would you be able to pop up that QR code again, if you could, as far as grabbing some templates and that kind of thing. And then another one, just real quick, we're right at the end of our thing, but I think we can answer is, do you have suggestions about how to talk to or talk about career pathing in a fairly flat, they said kind of a smallish organization, balancing breadth with bigger and better job? Like, how do you bring that up and address that when there's not a whole lot of maybe specific, this leads to this leads to this?
Great. Yeah. I just spoke on a podcast about this whole topic of when you're a smaller organization, promotions may not be there. I think with the newer generations coming through, they want to know that there is a clear path for growth. And that's why you see all of these titles where I'm like, customer service 1, 2, 3. Like, I got a promotion. Yes, you did. It's a step in responsibility, step in progression. I know I'm climbing something in the proverbial climbing the corporate ladder, but there's something there for them, And so, am I being developed? Yes, you're being developed. Here's how. And so, it doesn't always mean promotion, but growth equals lots of things. Number one is the growth, what you need them to grow in to become better in your organization, to hit the mission, vision, values where you're trying to go. But every individual also has little things that they want to grow in. And I'm going to have a quick story. I know we're over on time, but quick story is this. We asked everyone in our organization a few years back, what's one thing you want to grow in professionally this next year? Astounding responses. One of them was, I want to go on an airplane and take a client out for a meal. And I'm like, interesting. Easy. I do that all the time. Next time I fly to go meet with a client, I'll bring you with me. And that's exactly what I did. And I think for a few $1,000s, that's a heck of a lot less than it would cost to replace that person if they left. And they would have left if someone said, hey, you want a cool job where you get to travel and meet with clients, take them out for meals? Like, yes, he would have said yes. That's exactly what he would have said. And so I was able to salvage that by a simple investment in time. And obviously, you got experience and you got to grow and things like that. So sometimes it doesn't mean promotion. It could mean an experience that develops them as a professional.
Wonderful. Hey, so we are at the end. Really, really appreciate it, Jonathan. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining. This has been